everybody, my name's Hope and welcome back to my channel. I like musicals, they're a big part of my life, and today I'm going to share something with you which I think is really important in order to become a great actor. So when you play a lead or a supporting role, you tend to think about how you're going to play that character because otherwise you're just being yourself on stage. However, what a lot of people forget, especially with younger age groups or like youth age groups, but I would say even some people in like professional shows, forget when you're in the ensemble that you're playing very different people. Having one role in a show is fine if you're playing the same person, but especially in modern theatre, when you're in the ensemble, you're usually playing more than one person. So at the moment, I am in the ensemble in a production of Les Mis. We have dress rehearsals all this week, and then next week is the actual show, which I think is really fun. I'm not sure when this will go up. I think it'll go up the week before we start, but I'm doing it at school, so it's only like 3 days, but I still thought this would be a really good idea. So today I'm going to share my tips and tricks on how to develop your character when you're in the ensemble, because I also need to do it as well because all my people are the same person and I don't want that. So let's get into it. So what I've done first is I've basically got a piece of paper and I've separated it into 6 boxes with each of my characters in each box. So that's woman, the poor, prostitute, have fun, customer, factory girl, and a wedding guest. I think already from the get-go, when you see these on paper, you know that these are very different characters. Someone that is attending a wedding is definitely not going to have the same personality as a prostitute. At least I hope so. So a question I want to pose before this video, which you'll understand why I'm going to pose it now, is how are you going to distinguish your characters from one another? And I know that probably seems a bit hard when you haven't even got like different characters, but I'm saying this now because you'll understand later. My first tip, name your character. This probably seems like a really insignificant step for some people, but honestly I think it helps you develop your character so much. I think when you hear a name, you associate a personality with it. Try and associate or give names that are relevant for the time period that it's set in. So Les Mis is set between the years of 1815 and 1832. However, I'm not actually in the bit set in 1815, so I'm starting from around 1820, which is when I think around at the end of the day is set, and then obviously more time passes because Cosette and Eponine grow up. And so I gave that around like a 12 year, maybe they're like 8 at the beginning and they're like 20 in 1832 when the majority of it happens, like the whole revolution. Fun fact, Les Mis is not actually set during the French Revolution. It's set during this 3-day attack well after the French Revolution, which was in like the I want to say 1796, but I might be wrong. So I did a quick Google and then found basically a list of names, French names from the 1900s, because that was as early as I could get. It wouldn't go any further back than that. One thing I did find funny was Jean was the #1 result for boys, but for girls I basically just scrolled through and was like, what names do I associate with these kind of characters? So for the woman I picked Madeleine, for the poor I picked Celestine, for a prostitute I picked Jenny, for a customer I picked Clarice, for a factory girl I picked Anna, and for a wedding guest I picked Clementine. When I read these names I thought about what names I associated. There were a lot of names on there, like a lot of names, and I just thought that maybe Clementine sounded quite posh, it sounded quite regal, I thought it sounded quite innocent, which I thought would go well with the rich character of a wedding guest. And then for Jenny, I thought that sounded like a bit more common. I think it sounds very different to all the other names there, like Celestine or Madeleine or Clarice, where these are kind of more old-fashioned names, where I think Jenny is still used today more than the others. So I thought it fitted the prostitute role quite well. So tip number 2, give them an age. I would say if you can, preferably around your playing age. So as a 16-year-old girl, that would probably go up to about the age of around 21 probably, but obviously in youth theatre it's harder because obviously like I played Elsa Schrader who's like 40 and I was 15, so it's kind of hard, but I would say if you can, definitely do. So as 16-year-old prostitutes weren't overly common. I mean, they might have been, but I don't want to be a 16-year-old prostitute, thank you very much. I've kind of put them all between the ages of around 20 to 26, with the woman being the oldest, because I thought children, or because she sings about people at the barricade being dead, and then the youngest being the poor, which was Celestine, because she has grown up like this and always has been like this, so cannot really escape being poor. Number 3, what is their class? How wealthy are they? Where do they stand in the social hierarchy of the show? In this time in France, there were about 6 classes. So you had the rich, the upper class, the middle class, who lived very much like the upper class, and then you had 3 other of the lower class. So you had upper working class, middle working class, and lower working class. I just realised that's 5, not 6. But let's carry on. So the middle class lived very much like the upper class of the time. However, they valued way more in education. They worked to help people, which I think basically just shows who Marius is as a character. So I would probably put him in the middle class rather than the upper class. Also, I count Monsieur le Maire, or the reinvented Valjean. He would probably be almost upper class, I'd say, very close. Like, he's an owner of a factory, he knows what he's doing. Javert, probably middle class. Eponine would probably be like middle working, so middle lower class. And if those give you kind of guidelines, these are what the classes of my characters are. Obviously, a prostitute has no money, she has nowhere else to go, so she is like at the bottom. And then wedding guests at the top, very rich, I would say, if they can go to a fancy wedding. And then kind of put woman in the middle, because probably has a husband that provides for her and her children. Maybe not anymore, because he might have died on the barricade, but you know. So the next thing you have to think about is, what are your relationships to the people you interact with in your scenes? This is to avoid homogeny, which is a biological word, which basically means that every character that's come from that heritage or that route in life ends up the same. You want diversity. Obviously not to the point where everyone's so different you don't understand how they're all in the same place and have the same life, but you want slight variations in personality, so this is why you want to do that. So with my woman character, Madeline, I've put with the women, she is sad because she's mourning over whoever, but she's also happy because these women have gone through the same thing, and so they can all empathise with each other, or sympathise, one of the two. Then with Clementine, the wedding guest, I put that with Maris and Cosette. She has quite a good relationship because she wouldn't be invited to the wedding if she didn't know them really. And also with other guests, she was quite happy, comfortable, because all these people come from the same kind of class and the same place, and so she has an overall positive relationship. With Anna, the factory girl, with Fantine, she doesn't really like her that much. All the girls are kind of jealous of her. With the other factory girl, she's quite happy. They're like friends, and so there's a good relationship there. The foreman, everyone's a bit like, oh, we want a bit of the foreman, but he likes Fantine, so we don't really like him that much. We just find it funny to make fun of him. And then with Valjean, everyone's scared of him. He's the big boss man. No one wants to interfere with him. Jenny, the prostitute. I'm gonna love saying that through this video. With men, she's happy because she gets money, but also sad because it's not a great way to make money. With the pimp, she's kind of scared of him. He is again the boss, but she's a bit more reclusive. And then with Javert, they're all scared of him. Don't want to interfere with the police. Don't want to get arrested because what they're doing is a little bit illegal. With Clarice, the customer, the relationships with other customers really varies. Some of them she likes, some of them she doesn't like. She's a bit drunk, so really depends how she works there. Then with Thénardier's, they're great. It's their hub, woohoo. With little Eponine, they kind of like her. It's Thénardier's kid, likeable. Little Cosette, they treat her like dirt. Yeah. They're horrible to her. And then with Celestine, with the poor, with the other poor, happy, kind of, because they're all in the same boat, but sad because they're all poor. With Javert, they're scared of him, don't like him. Big boss man, once again, don't want to interfere with the police. The ABC boys, they're good, they're trying to help, yeah. And the rich people, they want the rich people, not in a weird way, but they need money, so they're like, give me money, rich people. please. But yeah. Okay, so another thing you have to think about is what do you have to consider because of the time period that it's set in. So hygiene was bad. There was no good hygiene for pretty much anybody. People rarely had baths or washed things, or yeah, it was disgusting. Arranged marriage was common in richer families because of social or economic gain. Poor people had little to no education at all. I found it funny how basically the ABC guys in a scene of the beggars, they give out leaflets, and I pointed out that no one would be able to read. It's not possible. We can't read. We're just gonna look at it and be like, I don't know what this is, but hopefully it'll help. Family violence was common. The middle class got way more power. The lower class increased significantly in size. Art and literature also became more popular with middle class, which is why, again, I thought that Marius would go under that bracket rather than the upper class bracket. There's nothing really to write down here. It's more what you kind of just need to know. A big thing is do your research on the time that it's set, because I think it gives you a bit more of a rounded view of what life for all these people would have been like. Even though they were richer, the hygiene was still a problem. Arranged marriage was still a thing. Just because you're from a different class doesn't mean that every single aspect of their lives was completely different, and that's something which can tie all of your characters together, that they're all living in the same time period with the same conditions and culture. Number 6. What do you have to consider about your character because of their class? I think that if you have a richer character, that there is this more snooty personality. I mean, not always, but especially with my director, she wanted the upper class to be very snooty and very like, I'm much better than you, which is the way she wanted to take it, so that's the way we have to go with that. And they have this different view on life. They have money to spare, they have money to spend. However, poor people, they're suffering, they don't have anywhere to go, they don't have a home, all of these things that make these personalities so different. I think even between an upper working class and a lower working class, there are different personalities. I think that the lower working class are very desperate, that desperation is such a huge part of their life that it kind of becomes a personality trait, if you will. Whereas I think the upper working class, while they are still somewhat desperate, it's not necessarily associated with their personality because they have other things in their life that can dictate the person they are rather than the amount of money they have. My next question is, what about their family? Do they have siblings? Do they have children? Are they married? Are they single? What family do they have? So I thought with the poor, probably have no family. If they had any family, they're probably dead, illness or something, and they're poor, so children is just such a bad idea. I thought that the customer, Clarice, I thought she would have one sister. I don't see her having any children at this point in time, but I do see her having some sort of family. But with the wedding guest, Clementine, I thought that she had a husband and 2 children. They're all still alive, they're all still happy. She's at this wedding, not with her husband. Husband's out working and the children are at home, and thought this very like rich lifestyle. Then the factory girl Anna, thought she had a husband, but I didn't think at this point she would have any children. Just in my head, this is what I thought. I thought Jenny, our prostitute lady, sad times, I think she had a child, which was recently deceased. I think mortality rates were quite low during this time. I wouldn't be surprised because of hygiene was so bad. So yeah, that was sad, and had no one else because she's got nothing. And then with the woman, 4 to 5 children, that was just what was in my head. And then the husband, happily married until he died on the barricade. That was what was going through my head. So yeah, those are the families of my characters. So what you want to do next is get 3 personality traits about each character. Not moods like happy or sad, but actual personality traits like friendly, bubbly, confident, reserved, scared. Well, scared can kind of come under both. As well as anxious, it can kind of come on both. Some of them overlap, but not like happy or sad, where it's very much a mood rather than a personality trait. Here are the personalities of each of my characters, because there's like 18 words, so I'm not going to say them all out loud when you can just read them whilst I'm talking and making rain symbols with my hands. So what you want to do next is think about why are you in that place at that time. Why are you acting your character in this place at this time? So for the prostitute and the factory girl, it's to make money. That is their aim. That is what they are there for. If they weren't making money, they would not be there. These don't have to be complicated. These just have to be like simple sentences in order for you to understand why are they there at that time. For all women, like Madeline, it's to mourn dead, her husband. For the poor, they have no other choice. This is where they have to be because they have nowhere to live, so this is where they are. With the customer, I thought maybe it would be to meet friends and that kind of thing. And then with the wedding guest, to celebrate the wedding of Cosette and Marius. So number 10, second to last point, what is your aim as a performer to try and convey? What do you want the audience to feel when you're acting? I think for the women, for me personally, it's for the audience to feel sad. They want to feel sorry for these women who've lost their friends or their brothers or their sons or their husbands or whoever. Then with prostitutes, again, to make you feel sorry. This was the life that a lot of people had to lead at the time. With the factory girl, doesn't really evoke any feeling other than to make you feel sorry for Fantine. That's what we're there for, because we're horrible. Then with the wedding guest, it's to make the audience feel joy and happiness, like, wow, look at this beautiful wedding. This whole musical's been so depressing and there's finally something nice going on. I think for the customer, it's to show this really kind of stupid side, especially in this production. It's really hard to explain this actually, but you want the audience to feel like, oh, everyone's having a good time, just there for the enjoyment, but it's really silly enjoyment. You're like, how do people enjoy themselves when everyone's like this? And I think that's something you can kind of relate to in like modern day settings. And then with the poor, again, to make you feel sorry for them. They're all dying and you're just watching them feel depressed. And lastly, what is your aim as an actor to show how you can distinguish each of these characters? Now, with what you've got, you now have an entire person. You've got their name, you've got how old they are, you've got why you're there, what your life is behind this wall, you have what they're like, you have all of these things that you can now think about when you're performing. And now I think that this question is so much easier to answer. Even if your Sorry, a book just fell over and I had a bit of a shock. Even if your character's personality traits overlap, they are still different people. They have different lives. They might be in the same place, but they have different feelings towards different things. And I think that that's how we answer this question. You've just developed your character in your head or on paper or whichever way you think. You've developed your character, so now you can distinguish. It's not how do I do it, it's that you instead now are playing 6 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 or however many parts you have. You're playing all those different characters because they're no longer the same person. Whether I am Madeline or Celestine or Jenny or Anna or Clementine or Clarice, I don't have to play them the same because now they're completely separate people. And look, now my paper is full. Like, this is just basic stuff. Like, I use smiley faces instead of explaining because I know what those smiley faces mean, and it's clear, concise, and I don't need to read like full-on paragraphs about these characters when I just have a simple overview of who they are. And that does it for this video on developing characters in the ensemble. I hope it helped because it's definitely helped me, because now I'm actually going to think about these things when I'm performing. Like the video if you liked it. I hope you did. Keep enjoying musicals as much as me, and I will see you in the next one. Woo! Wah! Yeet! Woo!